to frequently asked questions about CyberLounge. Well, that's simply a little assistance. The sign that that is in front of me right now is CyberLounge and tutorials and suggestions. So those are items that are things that people would be using if they are building or doing something in CyberLounge. Essentially, they would have to be, for most of these, they would have to be registered users.
To let me add them for the moment, if you register, you will get a whole region for yourself as a sandbox where you can try out everything, including building things and having events. So it's unlimited regarding the features.
So you would be able to use the tutorials. And of course, that would be, you would initially have to practice doing kinds of things. Oh no, it does not take long to register as a user. It takes hardly any time, but of course you have to make a password and record it. So I always regard registering with a password as considerably more than coming in as a guest. Now, this sign that's in front of me now, which is Web Worlds 3D Virtual Worlds, and running in a browser, and that says summary. And I usually do that in my blog. I make summaries when I have enough information to be worth a summary, and that generally just summarizes a number of articles that I have read. So it makes them available, that I have a number of articles that I have written. It makes them available and easy to access. And let's see, now the next two items, they sort of go together, the next two items. Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History is, of course, not a part of CyberLounge. In fact, it's only just barely a virtual world. It is a virtual world, or at least it works somewhat like a virtual world. It does run in the browser, and it does show you a lot about the Museum of Natural History. It's essentially a large. Is nobody hearing me? I hope. Oh. Everybody's hearing, okay. Yeah, the Smithsonian, and you can click on that and go and look at the web page that gets you to. The Smithsonian has done something that is quite economical and pretty clever. Essentially, what they have are a number of 3D, that is 360 views that they've taken from particular locations. And each 360 view gives you certainly the impression of a 3D world, but you don't have any perspective, and you can't really move around in that location. But you can look around the entire world, the entire museum area that is displayed there. And there's a number of them. So actually, all taken all together, they will take you all pretty much all through the museum. The reason the next item is my concept of how a web world might be used. You notice what it says is, and this is what I am imagining. It doesn't exist in this form yet. The teacher's assistant, the teacher's web assistant. Now, teachers have assistants. Teacher assistants have been around for a long time, and they probably have some teachers provide some web assistants of various kinds. for students in a classroom can work with. And that's what I'm suggesting. The idea here, though, is if you had somebody who was a web assistant, that person would know all sorts of information relevant to what that person is teaching, and would be a kind of assistant, would teach some number of students, presumably those that are somewhat advanced and don't need hands-on assistance from the local teacher, and would, for example, know about things like the Smithsonian Museum, National Museum, and would be able to direct students to those locations, to those web pages. Because of course, once you're in a browser, you can actually, if you know where to look, you can find out almost anything you could possibly want to know. So now that doesn't exist right now. I'm really suggesting people could think about developing such a thing. I see other kinds of student assistance being offered on the web, and those assistants, well, they're not in a 3D web. At least I have not seen any that are in a 3D world, but they do. Some of them very possibly. Some of the assistants, probably not cheap, will present the face of an instructor or tutor, and in some cases the tutorial is actually the main source of instruction. And I know of one person who is providing that kind of instruction in China, with 2 students in China. Maybe I know of 2 of them. The students are learning English, and the Chinese teacher is sufficiently knowledgeable to handle instruction in writing, text, and so forth, but is not sufficiently fluent in spoken English to give adequate instruction in the pronunciation of English words. So this apparently is a fairly large-scale effort that is being provided, and it has some pretty well-paid tutors. And here in this next one, was the next one until I moved a little bit too far, education in virtual worlds. Okay, that's actually a rather extensive summary that I have of articles that I have posted or found that deal with education in virtual worlds. And that means not just web worlds, but Second Life and OpenSim. And I've been accumulating that for a number of years. And now the next 2 items are relevant to the current activities because they're both about this current MOOC. Does anybody have any questions? And let me explain that my style of teaching, at any rate, is oriented towards I'm not going to be the sage on the stage. I am going to be the guide on the side. In other words, I've already said in my articles, well, about everything that I know to say, at least for an introductory meeting, so all I know to do next is to invite you to read some of those things and ask me questions, or read some of those things and you don't need to ask me questions. If I've written it, covered everything you need to know. I will point out that this location is an entry location, and it is not in its set up for a lot of instructors other than, well, the panels that I put out. We also, obviously, we can set up teleports just the same as we do in Virtual Worlds. And the panel I'm standing in front of is an example of a teleport. You can click on that and go there. But before you do that, you'd be welcome to do it at any time after I explain to you one other thing. In order to do that, you just click on it, and I guess you'll probably just go. However, you may want to come back, and in order to be able to come back, look down at the bottom line, and there is what I call it's a push pin. It's actually a little sharp pointed thing with a big round head, and if you click on that, you will get open up a panel that shows everybody here, and shows where everybody is. If you click, now the first tab says social, and that shows the people. The second tab says public, and that's all of the public locations. Our location here is right at the top, nonprofit virtual world. And if you're somewhere else and want to get back to here, what you would do is click on the enter button on nonprofit virtual worlds. Yeah, when you first get a region, it will be private, and then if you want to make it public, there is, I think, this little house is. You go to your place and and click on the house button. I believe, is that right, Dieter?
That's right.
Right there. Mm-hmm. I know I made my world public a long time ago, so that's why I don't remember how to do it very well. And by the way, let me point out this item. There are two of these actually. There's one that I've set up. It's Selby's bulletin board, and then there's this other one that I'm on the brick wall that I'm facing. That's Dieter's, and both of these are essentially they're whiteboards. I think I would call them
simple Google Docs.
Yes, they are Google Docs, and whatever you can put on a Google Doc, you can put on one of these. And furthermore, depending on how you set your Google Docs, anybody can write on it. Dieter's and mine here, both of these are set up in such a way that anybody can write on them. And the way you would write on it, and you're welcome to try it, because, it won't do any harm, because of course it can always be erased. If you click on the panel, you will open up a little window that you can type in, and you will be able to type in it. And I think as soon as you type in it, it will start appearing on the screen. Yes, everybody can write on it at the same time. And I also have a copy of this one on my own machine, that is handled by. It's a Google Doc, and if you know how to handle Google Docs, you just handle it the same way as all of them. Any Google Doc, and so I could actually put a message here, or in any place that's displaying my Google Doc, this Google Doc. I could put that here, from my own computer rather than come into the virtual world, if that seemed to be more convenient. But I don't ever do that because I don't have any reason. It's quite convenient enough for me to come into the virtual world. I'm checking to see if anybody is in Cookie looking for help, and I don't see anybody, so that's good. So we still have nobody wants to ask questions? Well, I'll go on a little bit more. Dieter, there are two web worlds, and this one is going to, this one is one we'll spend, well, we'll talk about most and spend most or all of our time in at this point. The other virtual world is, well, you can easily find it in the materials that I've sent to you, especially that summary material. Both of them are actively in use. I think Dieter actually has an educational contract. Am I right, Dieter?
Yes, right.
And well, you want to comment? You're going to have 400 people in it that are in a school, and that starting in October they will be learning in this virtual world, right?
Yeah, there will be 40 separate group rooms. So every group of 10 people will have their own unique room, which they can customize to their wishes and do their group work there. Like I said, told at early August in my presentation. And this will be based on this platform, but with more sophisticated look and feel. For example, let me stand up. We also have a different region, which you can simply teleport to using or clicking on this image. You will find my real avatar there already. And this is created with external tools and imported. Selby, we visited, I think, on Monday or yesterday. I don't.
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
We visited.
Yeah. So it means you can have also environments which look more realistic and have more detail. It always depends on the purpose. This was one of the first builds which we have here, which is completely, everything here is made of prims, except the building to my left. This is also an imported object, but you can really, so far you can take a whole OpenSim OR file and convert it to be compatible with a web world.
And yes, so we can actually, and we have verified we have done that. That is, we can take OR files from OpenSim that we get from OpenSim, and we can convert them and have converted them and imported them into the web world, into both of these web worlds, I believe. And we also have found some sources of mesh that are widely available and free that you can also import into web worlds. And I don't know well, Dieter has been importing stuff. That this house is an example of an import in terms of stuff. It's not an OR, but a mesh object.
And not to forget, if you look, Selby's avatar was also converted and imported from OpenSim. Yes.
By the way, yeah, and by the way, I brought this was imported. Our import method now here is drag and drop. In other words, I have a file containing the stuff, and I simply drag and drop, like as we usually do, drag and drop onto the screen in Cyber Lounge, and it materializes.
I can demonstrate it. Just a second. I will drag and drop a video directly from YouTube.
Yes, so if you wanted to, yes. So if you want to show an unplanned video, you can do that.
Oh.
And of course, as I've illustrated, I think before, if you want to provide a web link that you have not yet set up and you have not set up to provide, you simply paste it into the chat and it will show up as I will illustrate. Well, I will illustrate if I, yeah, there we are. If I do it right.
Yeah, the thing is, I cannot do it because I am not, I'm here just as a guest.
Well, I just did it. And if you notice, I believe that now you may have to go to the history of chat, which is the display, the chat window display. It is well, two sort of squarish speech bubbles right next to the microphone, right to the left of the microphone. Right to the left, well, no, let's say at the left of the microphone. If you go there, you can click on that and that will open. The sound tends to be, I don't think we've had, I think we are now using a system that seems to work pretty well. And yes, the sound, I think, is as good as anywhere else.
Yeah, so the sound system is called FreeSwitch, which is also used by OpenSim or some OpenSim instances. It's a centralized speech server which supports right now up to 100 concurrent users. So you can even talk in bigger groups.
And we are in the process of developing a browser that full capability to use FreeSwitch in the both worlds at the same time, so that we will be able, and that's part of our strategy to help people use this kind of world as a way of introducing people to the big virtual worlds. The installed virtual worlds, I think, is probably the technical, but will become the technical term, and that is those like OpenSim where we have to install a viewer.
Okay. I just rest a video, and now you can click on it, and this can be done just by dragging the address bar of your browser with the video link into the 3D window. So it's just
Nellie Deutsch,
drag and drop,
and
like
I'm going
said,
to show you
everything is
how
working.
to log in to Second
And this
Life
you can do for every video on YouTube or for every other HTML
area,
page,
where we conduct discussions.
Also this is great for giving presentations because you don't have to upload anything in advance. You can use slides, videos, other pages, all for reference, and you can keep things on your own hard drive. So there is no need to upload it to your inventory, to cluster it or so. You just use it whenever you need it.
Except that you have an extra advantage because in this arrangement, you can leave those things out as I have done. In other words, the panels that I put out, I could have been putting out as panels in a presentation, and if I had done that, of course, I could put them out one at a time. But even if I had done that, I would have left them out indefinitely. These particular panels, of course, it takes two steps. I can drag and drop the texture in, And as a matter of fact, I have my, I've been shifting to making my blog titles, one part of my blog title, suitable for taking as a video and dragging into here, drag and drop into here. That creates an object which I still then have to, of course, reset to have a open into a function as a web sender. Back here, I said it back. Again, you may not want to use it, but if you may want to use it. This is an educational build that has been in progress for quite some time, and there are actually, well, you can see, and you can, if you click on the green ball at the bottom of the picture, that will teleport you to that location, and feel free to teleport as long as you can remember how to come back. No, you won't. How do we come back? Look, to come back to this location from another location in Cyberlounge, remember the bottom line, look for the push pin, click on the push pin, and then go to the second tab, which is called public, and that will display to you all of the public places that you can go to. This location is the top one. Yes. So that means for okay, I see people very casually leaving and entering, so that seems to be working okay. Everybody has figured out how to move around. Oh, and I will point out, I think we are in some stage of figuring out, of developing the capability of asking multiple choice questions, or actually short answer questions, short word, single word, or something like that. questions, and maintaining evaluation. I don't know what the stage is, and I don't. That's not an urgent item for Dieter, but I'm sure we will have that at some point.
For sure, probably sooner than later, rather sooner than later.
And yeah, well, you can get stuck on the revolving stage, but that's all right. You can see I can stand on the revolving stage. I don't even have to sit. I can just stand on it, but that's all right. I just stop. All I have to do is step off and it stops. Now, I don't want to be silent for very long, or people wonder if the voice has stopped. So I won't do that. And by the way, I'll point out that back off to the side, because it's less. It's not something you would want to look at right here. This sign is VWMOOC. This sign is leads to the video of Dieter's presentation earlier this month. Now that's about a half hour. That's about an hour presentation, so you don't want to start that right now, I wouldn't think. But you're gonna. One of the nice things about this configuration, the way it is, if you click on that sign, it opens the video in your browser, and your own browser. You can save things wherever you want them once you've got the URL. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about making notes or storing the information. All of the information you get is readily available. Actually, you probably can even get it if you forget to make any record of it, because I expect you can find in your browser the history of web links that you've used.
That's right. The links to the different regions are also stored as usual bookmarks, or even they remain in the browser history for a specific time.
Yeah, and besides that, of course, if you wanted to go back and review any items and simply had no way of getting those items other than coming back here, well, you know, it's not significantly harder to come back here than it is to go to any other web page. You don't even have to remember. Even if you logged in and registered, you can come in as a guest and you don't even have to remember your password. Or actually, the way I've got it set up, I've got Google remembering this password, the password for this location. Yeah, for older computers, that's true. 3 or 4 years, well. Yes, and you can buy a Chromebook for less than $200. immediately. I've been to conferences in the past, to educational conferences that were on the internet. And actually, when I go there, they often want me to install something on my computer in order to participate in the meeting. Here, you don't have to install anything. So it's much from that. I have run into cases where they wanted me to install something. I was going to the meeting. I found I had to install something. They gave me a link to it, and then when I tried to install it, or even to download it, that didn't work. So I didn't go to that meeting.
Yeah,
but I would have.
Sometimes, especially in institutions or in companies, you are not even allowed to install something on your client PC.
That's right. Or if you go to a library, and there's a lot of people who might use a library access. But now you can use like a library access here, because and I pointed out to other people, you can use it in your university or school.
Yeah, you can use any public PC.
Yes, and if you don't even have to talk to the technical people that handle the computer connections. They won't know, because you're going to have a browser.
Right, and for using CyberLounge and this technology, you don't need any installations, you don't need any firewall specific settings. You can use it if you have reached the internet, you can join a web world.
Yep. So it is vastly easier than it would be in many institutions, educational institutions, where to get permission to install something on their system, would probably have to jump through all sorts of hoops. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions, remember, I will be available at the same time, or at least at the 10 o'clock SL time. Almost any weekday, and if I'm not going to be here, I will put up a notice on my bulletin board. Okay, I think we're finished. Dieter, and it seems to have gone well.
Yeah,
we did not have any bugs.
No, voice did work very good